What's up, guys? This is Coach Grant with First Down Training, and today we're going to be breaking down a wide receiver who never loses in one-on-ones. So I hope this video helps you guys out. Hope it could teach you a few new things. But also, fellas, if you are a wide receiver or a quarterback and would like to train with us this offseason, we are going to be traveling out to 6 more states across the U.S. for 2-day-long QB and wide receiver camps. Next up on our camp tour, we will be coming out to Cleveland and Austin, Texas. Both of those camps are sold out, but then we'll be coming out to Seattle, Washington, Newark, New Jersey, Denver, and Los Angeles. So check out that very first link in the description below, fellas, if you would like to train with us this year in one of these 5 remaining states that we are traveling out to. We would love to have you out to one of our camps. Let's get started with this video. So now we're going to be breaking down Jordan Brown, who is a wide receiver out of Texas Tech. Now, this guy has some of the best routes that I have seen at the collegiate level, and we're going to break down what makes him so special. So this first route we're going to be looking at here is like a 10 to 12 yard dig route versus this inside shade press coverage look. Now, Brown comes out of here with this like stance switch, right? Now, this is something that you see so many wide receivers use nowadays. So many wide receivers, especially out of the slot, come out like with not the traditional inside foot up, outside foot is back stance. Now, why do guys do this? Guys usually do this for timing, but they also do it for certain press releases that they want to work and that they're comfortable with. And that's what I want to talk about here. So he's doing this like variation of a wide step release, kind of with like a little hesitation element to it. And he's able to get separation, maintaining the same principles that we teach on this route. So when we have an inside leverage DB and I have to run an inside breaking route like a dig, like a post, maybe a curl, so many wide receivers think that, okay, just because it's an inside breaking route, I have to take the inside release. But that could be the furthest thing from the truth. You got to understand when you're facing a disciplined DB, he is not going to give up the inside release. You know, we do a lot of camps across the country, and at the end of the camps, we'll do about an hour of one-on-ones, right? And there's always situations where a DB will line up inside shade. You'll get a talented wide receiver who will throw, you know, a hard fake to the outside. This DB jumps and he's able to take the inside release versus an inside shade press DB. And they'll look at me and they'll go, well, hey, it worked. But against a disciplined DB, that is not going to work. He's going to do something called keeping his leverage. His sole responsibility is do not give up the inside release. So we have to be comfortable, fellas, taking an outside release versus inside shade press. So the best way to take that outside release and the best way to move this DB is by threatening him where he doesn't want me to go, and he doesn't want me to go to the inside. That's why he's lined up an inside leverage, prevent the inside route. So this wide receiver is going with this like variation of a wide step. So a wide step is where you take this back foot. It's exactly how you sound, and you step wide. You're trying to threaten the DB outside of his platform, or outside of his frame, I should say, to move him off of his platform. Now, that's why he comes out in this stance switch, because it allows him to use something called a kick step. So a kick step is what he does with his back foot here. You see how he takes this like little punch behind his front foot. Now, a lot of people hate on this move. A lot of people say that this is a false step, that you're pretty much being slow off the line if you use it. I don't think of it that way. I think of it, if you're quick enough with this step, it's a great way to load up your hips, load up your body, so when you throw this wide step, you can actually move off of that platform. You see how far he is actually stepping from where he started. He started at the middle of the numbers, and he's maybe 2-3 yards past the top of the numbers. He's not going to be able to do that and throw his hip and move the DB without that kick step. So fellas, if you guys want more explosion, you guys don't feel like you're stepping quick enough off the line, you feel like you're taking all these short, choppy steps, try out this kick step to be able to move that DB. And again, it threatens his inside leverage to give us this free outside release. Now, some of you might be saying, well, Coach, why do I need to take an outside release? Why can't I just, you know, dip my shoulder and take this inside release and go whenever even if I have inside shade press? I'm running an inside route, so I have space. You actually don't have space when it's a full actual game scenario. This is one-on-ones, right? So there's nobody else on the field. But in a real game scenario, imagine you're running like a 12-yard dig, and the slot wide receiver is running like a 10-yard dig. If you force this inside release and then you break and you're like a yard from this slot receiver, that's horrible spacing on a route. You want to take that outside release to maintain spacing, make it easy on your quarterback. So he gets up to the top of this break, and he uses this kind of like hesitation move into a rocker step, sells like he's breaking to the outside. DB flips those hips open, but you see the amount of space he has now to accelerate out of the break and win the race to the ball. That is a textbook dig route versus that inside shade press look, and that is a great job winning on this route. So let's go ahead and play this full speed one more time. And I know I didn't spend too much time at the move at the top of the break, but we're going to talk about that in the next clip because that's a very, very dangerous move that he uses that I feel everybody can learn. So let's play this full speed one more time. Great job using that wide step, attacking that DB, and then using that crossover at the top to win on that dig. So now, first example here that we're going to look at, or next example, I should say, he's going to be running the same deal. He's going to be running like this dig route, but this DB is going to be in head-up press off man coverage. So this is a rare look that we see because normally on this channel, we talk a lot about how you attack a DB when, he's shaded to the inside, when he's shaded to the outside, inside shade press, outside shade press. What do you do when you got a DB who is in head up press or head up off man coverage? And that's what we're going to talk about here. So I'm going to play this clip full speed and then we'll break it down. So he comes off, he gives this little move, gives this rocker step at the break, and then is able to win on a dig. So fellas, when you get head up coverage where the DB is right in front of you, whether it's press, whether it's off, that should be a gift. That should be easy money. We have a two-way go. We just have to close the space with him and we could break in or we could break out. But the most important thing that you do versus head up off coverage is you have to close the distance. So many wide receivers are afraid to close distance with DBs. They're afraid of the contact. They're afraid of, oh, if I get too close, he is going to get hands. Fellas, we want him to try to get hands on us because that gives us an opportunity to swat the hands and be able to create space. So you see how what he does here is he comes off the ball. He gives this kind of inside step like he's doing an inside stem, but he uses that step to push back outside and square up this DB and almost think of it like he is stepping onto his toes. Anytime you have off coverage, we want to make that DB think head up off coverage. We're stepping on his toes. We're threatening him. We're closing the distance because that makes a DB uncomfortable. A DB wants to operate, fellas, with about 5 yards of space because that gives him space to react. Like if this wide receiver were to give a cut right here, let's say he fakes to the outside and then tries to run a dig. He's got 5 yards of space to recover and cut off our angle on the route. But when you close that space and step on his toes, suddenly he doesn't have that recovery space. Suddenly he's trying to watch our hips. He's trying to anticipate what we're doing, and that's when we could get space. So at the top of this break, he uses something called a rocker step. So a rocker step, some of you might be familiar with this. It's where you step, instead of just breaking off of one foot, like on a dig here, he's probably going to break off his left foot. Same thing like on a post, on a dig, you're breaking off the left. Instead, on a rocker step, you step in the direction you are going first. So if I have to break to the inside, I step with my inside foot first to sell like I'm going back to the outside. Now, the most important thing about that rocker step when you're facing a man coverage DB is that you sell the route with your upper half. So a DB in off man coverage, DB in press man coverage, where are his eyes supposed to be on us? He's supposed to be watching our hips, right? He's not watching our head and shoulders. He's not watching our feet or our ankles like some people say, which is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. He's watching our hips. So when I do this rocker step, I have to sell it with my hips. And you see how when he throws this outside fake, almost his belly button is almost turning towards the sideline. His upper body is loose and his lower body has some twitch. He's quick with the 1-2, but loose with the upper half. That's what gets us space, fellas, because the quickness of our feet, that creates energy for sure. And that energy is going to help us drive out of the break. But what sells it is not our feet. So many wide receivers, when they try to do this move, they try to reach super far. They'll like over-exaggerate their cuts. That makes us just flat out slow, fellas. Keep those cuts inside your frame, but let's sell with the upper half. Your hips, your shoulders, everything's got to look like we're running that out route, and that is what's going to get us space and freeze that DB. You want to think here, from the waist up, that is separate from your feet. You throw that cut to the outside, you hit him with this quick 1-2, your toes stay pointed forward, you keep this positive shin angle, but the upper half, that makes it what look like you're going to the outside. Let's play this thing again, full speed one more time. This is a textbook example of how you guys should attack head-up coverage and how you can use that rocker step in open space. So now, next example we're going to be looking at here is how you guys can run this kind of like stop and go route to perfection, because this is probably as good as it gets on a stop and go. You know, some people would consider this maybe a hitch and go. Some people have like a dig and go in their playbook. It applies for all of that. So let's play this full speed. So he comes off here, speed releases to the outside, settles down, gets that DB to stop his feet, and then is able to accelerate back up and win on that route. So let's talk about it, right? So especially when you're going up against a talented DB who's, you know, He's been taught, you know, the different things to look for when it's a double move. He's very disciplined. He knows how to watch your hips. You have to be so freaking detailed on these routes downfield. So when this wide receiver comes off the ball, he accelerates to the outside. He's bursting, selling fade, making it look exactly like how he would run a curl, exactly like how he would run a stop route, a comeback, whatever. Now, when you have to run this double move, so many wide receivers will make this mistake on a stutter go, on a stop and go, is that they will just chatter their feet and just chatter their hands and try to just change speed real quick, and they rush the break. Guys, the quarterback knows it's a double move. He's not going to put that ball out there too early. He's not going to put the ball out there too soon. He's waiting for you to settle down for a second. Then he's putting the ball out there with some air and is going to let you go chase it. So when I'm doing this stutter go, I actually have to stop myself. Something that I tell my wide receivers is think of it like you're playing musical chairs, right? You guys have probably all played musical chairs as kids before. When the music stops and you got to sit in the chair, do you sit slowly? No, you sit freaking quickly. You drop your butt in that chair as fast as you can. On a double move like a stop and go, I want you to play musical chairs. I want you to get to that break point and sit as fast as you can. Try to decelerate. Sit your butt down. Try to almost bring that chin to your knee, because that change in speed right there, that deceleration, will get that DB to decelerate. And when we can get him to decelerate, all we got to do is reaccelerate, put that head down. Don't look back for the ball too early, because that's what so many wide receivers do. And we could widen the distance, get him by a couple steps, and that is wide ass open when you are at this collegiate D1 Power 5 level. So fellas, on a stop and go, we actually have to stop my momentum. We actually have to sit down. It's more than just a chatter of your feet and a chatter of your hands. Let's change levels. Let's pull that string to from my chin all the way down to my knee to slow myself down. Now, you obviously don't want to like stop and be flat-footed, right? Like when he breaks, you see how when he breaks, he's on like the ball of his foot, right? He's still staying in an explosive, powerful position. His pad level is forward. A lot of guys will do this and they take the sit down too literally. They'll sit down and their weight will be distributed on their heels. They'll be leaning back. And even if we get that DB to stop, it is very hard to re-accelerate from a position like that. When we sit down, let's make sure we stay on the ball of my foot. Let's stay in an explosive spot, and then we go. Just do not, I repeat, do not get separation, then look back for the ball right away. Unless you're in like the red zone and there's not enough space to accelerate, you're in the middle of the field, keep that freaking head down for at least 3 to 5 steps. Let's separate from the DB, and then we can win on this route. So let's play this again, full speed one more time. This is a textbook example of how you guys can run this stop and go, getting that DB to stop his feet, and then being able to win over the top. So now, next example we're going to be going over here is a move that's very advanced. And I think, you know, reason why we go over these types of moves, and a lot of people neglect mentioning this because, you know, they think it's too complicated. They think guys won't understand it. But at the end of the day, if you understand the basics, right? If you understand the fundamentals, how to get in and out of breaks, how to structure your routes, these more like quote unquote complex or complicated moves become so much easier for you fellas, but you have to have the basics down first. You can't just walk in and do this on your first try. You have to have the basics down. So this move is called a fake throw-by move. And this isn't even the greatest fake throw-by move, but it works and it gets the job done. And I'm going to talk about when you want to use this. So this wide receiver has got outside shade press, and he is actually going to be running an inside breaking route, which is a dig. So let's talk about what he does here. So he attacks the DB's leverage, he gets skinny, acts like he's throwing by, and then is able to get space on this route. So let's talk about it, right? So we have outside shade press. Normally when we get this outside shade press look, what do we normally have to run? We normally have to run an outside breaking route like a corner, an out, maybe a fade. So it's a little bit hard. In this case, we have to run an inside breaking route. But when we do this, he's outside leverage for a reason. He's trying to prevent the outside route and force us inside. Because in a real game scenario, I'm not trying to get you guys ready for one-on-ones. I'm trying to get you ready for a real game scenario. So in a real game scenario, this DB, when he's outside leverage, probably has what inside? Probably has help inside, right? Forcing this wide receiver to his help. So a lot of wide receivers will see this when they have to run their dig or their post or their curl, and they'll just take off and run away. You're running right to his help, you guys. We have to keep some kind of spacing. So off the ball, he attacks that leverage. He does a similar wide step. He's selling with his hips, selling with his shoulders, and takes this inside release. Now, when you take that inside release, we have to square back up. We have to get skinny. We have to get vertical. My hips and shoulders have to get vertical. So at the break point, again, all great wide receivers are able to do what with their routes? They're able to make them look the same. They don't want, they don't run, let's say you run 8 routes in your playbook. You don't run 8 routes 8 different ways. You run probably 8 routes 4 different ways, and they all build off of each other, right? They all look somewhat similar to make you unpredictable. So how would you run a 10-yard out versus this outside shade press look? You'd attack the DB, take the inside release, and then at the break point, you would either try to stack or slip under him. They call that a throw by when you slip under him, because you would use your outside hand to throw by on the DB's inside hip or shoulder and slip under him. So a fake throw by is exactly that, but it's a way to get separation. So he pushes up vertical, he puts the brakes on, he's faking like he is swatting this DB by to slip underneath him. That gets the DB to hesitate, and then we're off. And all we need, especially over the middle, you guys, is a yard or 2 of space, and that is enough for me to catch that ball and do some damage after I catch the ball. So a great move to get separation is a fake throw by. I only like it on a dig route. I want to make that very, very clear, because usually think about this. If you're running like a 10-yard out and you have inside shade press and you break on that 10-yard out, usually that's a timing throw for the quarterback. A quarterback will never, and I repeat, never throw an out route late. So if you have that first read timing 10-yard out where it's like right off the 3rd inside step, the QB's throwing it, I don't recommend using this move when you have a DB who's on your inside hip and fake and throw by then going out. It's going to script the quarterback's timing. You could use it on an out route, though, if maybe it's like a flood concept. So a flood is where, like, you know, like maybe the number 3 receiver's running a flat, you're the number 2, you're running a deep out route, quarterback's like rolling out or doing play action. You have some time there. That's not the most timing-based throw. But honestly, fellas, I personally only like it on a dig route. So let's play this again, full speed one more time. Great job by this wide receiver faking that throw by and then getting separation over the middle. All right, fellas, I really want to thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. If you guys have any questions at all, don't hesitate to leave those in the comment section below. Always appreciate the feedback. It's always great to hear from you guys. And again, fellas, we are coming out to 6 more states this year for 2-day-long QB and wide receiver camps. Our first 2 camps, they're the next 2 camps, I should say, are completely sold out, but we have 4 more remaining that have available spots, but they will fill up within the next month. So check out that very first link in the description below if you want to get one of those remaining spots to our off-season camps. I'll see you guys next time.